the Resistance.
All right, this week we're going to be taking a look at 3 rumors that have been floating around the Star Wars internet sphere. And the first one, I think, comes from a little bit of hope. A little bit of hope that Episode 9 won't be the end. One going around right now is that there's a possibility that Disney is considering splitting Episode 9 into 2 movies. So we're talking, Twilight, we're kind of talking Harry Potter, we're kind of talking Hunger Games. That's a pretty common trend, so it does seem plausible to that extent. But what do you guys think about this rumor? John, do you have any insight on what you think? That you think this might be true? Is this possible?
No, because I think with all those movies, we knew that was going to be the case when they were filming it, that they went into it without hiding it. Now, why would Star Wars say we're filming Episode 9, the final chapter in the Skywalker Saga? There's no reason to hide that they'd be splitting it. There's no benefit that they could have from doing that. So this just seems like one of those rumors that gets started out of nowhere. And people are like, well, I'm just going to report it and just put it out there and keep that fire rolling. It doesn't make any sense at all to me. And it doesn't seem like anything Star Wars has ever done, will ever do. This seems extremely baseless to me. And the other part of it, from a legal perspective, contract perspective, I believe the main actors only signed on for 3 movies. And if you're splitting this up into 2 parts, then you're talking about adding negotiations in that had to come into play for a 4th movie. Mm-hmm. And some of them may have had issues with that. That probably would have leaked out from publicists or whatever, PR, whatever you want to call it. And we've already heard like whispers like Adam Driver in negotiations for the 4th Star Wars movie, contract problems here, contracts there. None of that happened. So for that reason alone, I think it's also a wash, aside from the obvious reason that it's just not Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's this weird thing where we think that last one could be split and it's easy, but if they're not going to make Episode 9 Part 2, that would just be silly, right? So the other thing would be
The Crawl.
Yeah, Episode 10. So, they're just going to extend it to 10. There's some slight merit to the sense that you have a nice, even 10 movies that is the Skywalker Saga, but that...
We joked about that months ago.
I know, we talked about it, yeah. But for me personally, I think the biggest reason why this isn't going to happen is there's so much to wrap up. Is there? Because they're writing the story. No one already wrote this. I think 9 times out of 10, when these movies get split into these other things, they go, the last book had so much in it, and we want to cover all of it that we're going to put it into the movie, and it requires more than 2 hours. That everyone that I mentioned was a book first. And the only time I'd ever seen something split just for the sake of making money or trying to expand it was the Hobbit stuff. And there was some things where they were like, well, we're going to add it in, but this is weird. There's no precedent. There's no book first, or there's no story. Mm-hmm. They can just go in and write a 2-hour story. Like, it's not that crazy. And that to me is exactly what they're going to do. And then they have 3 solid trilogies and a story. So Lacey, I know we're not giving you a whole lot to work with unless you got another point. Do you agree, disagree? You think this is going to happen?
So I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's kind of like a money grab at this point to split these movies into 2, and it just doesn't make sense. And
wait, it doesn't make sense to make more money?
No, it does make sense in the sense of tradition, which is what I was going to say.
All right, gotcha.
With Star Wars is to break them into 2. With the young adult stuff, which I am a fan of young adult stuff like Hunger Games and Harry Potter. Not a big fan of Twilight. I read the books, but not a big fan. Twilight was definitely a money grab. That book is not that long and not that big of a deal to split it into 2. That was ridiculous. That was the first one that you were like, okay, you're clearly just looking for more money. Harry Potter is the one that I agree with you, James. They split that up because that book was like legit the size of a refrigerator. Mm-hmm. It was huge. And they had to cover so much stuff going on. So that makes sense. The Hunger Games, on the other hand, Suzanne Collins, who wrote The Hunger Games, who's actually a Connecticut Newtown resident.
Really?
Yeah, she lives in Newtown, which is about 15 minutes from me. Fun fact. She had the movie rights for the first book before she wrote the third book. The third book, we're not going to go into crazy. If you want to talk to me about it, go on Twitter, but that book sucks. So they split that movie into 2 to make more money with Jennifer Lawrence. That's all that was. Harry Potter, I completely agree with, but no, I don't see them doing this with Star Wars.
Lacey, which movie, I didn't see any of those movies. Which movie was the line in the trailer that makes me laugh when she was like, if you're gonna burn with us?
I would believe that was part 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mockingjay. Yeah, first
Mockingjay part 1, where she dials
Okay,
it
so
in.
my impression was so good, you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Oh, well, also dialogue.
Catching Fire was the best one.
Yeah, I would have to say
those
that's the
movies
most truthful adaptation. That's what I'm trying to get out.
Except it was stolen from Japanese films, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So was Star Wars, right?
Yeah. I want to say one more thing, one more element of is it a cash grab? Like, well, come on, guys. Why wouldn't Disney want to make more money? This is an opportunity to make more money. And to be honest with you, all those other movies that are cash grabs are like, oh, shoot, when we finish this Hunger Games run or this Twilight run or whatever, we're out of books. We're out of movies.
Yeah, Lionsgate's got no money.
Star Wars is not out of movies. It's not out of potential. They know that as soon as these movies are done, yes, that's true. It could be the end of the Skywalker Saga, but there's so many more movies they're planning, so many more ways to make money. They don't need to stretch that story.
Merchandising, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You know what's like, but real quick, just like we've heard, and I guess we're going to get into more rumors now, but like we've heard the most outrageous of outrageous Star Wars rumors from, every sequel. Luke Skywalker's the bad guy, and Luke Skywalker's Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren has a twin, and there's a big Luke.
Right.
So far, all of those aren't rumors. Those are true.
Those are true. All of those, to me, seem more possible than them splitting up Episode 9 into 2 parts, and I'm not even kidding. So that's where I'm at there. I mean...
All right, well, let's talk about the next one. So we've got Jon Favreau Show coming up, and there's actually kind of 2 here that we kind of should both talk about. Number one is that there's rumors about the budget. 10 million an episode for 10 episodes, $100 million.
Wasn't the shareholder meeting this week? That's where this is coming from?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
So, and then we're later hearing that it could potentially even be more than that. So there's one thing, do you guys think that makes sense for the money? And then the other thing is just, and we can bring it up here in a second, but I'll touch on it, is that this show could be about Mandalore and Mandalorians in general and their whole world. And that could be the center, the focus of this story. So John, you want to kick it off with the budget thing first?
Yeah, because that's the part I want to talk about the most. Yeah, sure. Definitely. I don't see how that wouldn't be the case. Like you just said, you're talking about content, right? You're talking about allegedly, say, 10 episodes at least, probably an hour each episode. That's 10 hours of content. That's 5 Star Wars movies worth. On a normal scale, 5 Star Wars movies is, what, $1 billion to make? So to say you're going to budget this at $10 million an episode, like I think that's low, maybe.
Isn't that Game of Thrones level? That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
So right. I think it stacks up next to the final seasons of Game of Thrones. Whereas so if this is the beginning of the show and they're starting here as the show grows and needs bigger budgets, this easily has the potential to be the most expensive television show per episode.
My biggest thing with this, if we're supposed to watch this in this galaxy, in this universe, and suspend our disbelief and feel like it's in that world, it has to look and feel like it, not feel cheap. So they have to go all out, or else it's going to be like some kind of knockoff type of situation. I don't want a watered down Star Wars just because it's not theatrical. I want Star Wars, so they better put the budget into this thing, especially because I'm going to be ponying up my money for that streaming service. So it doesn't surprise me, those numbers, and I would not be shocked if it's higher.
You mean like old school Doctor Who? You ever seen those shows? I'm sorry, guys. If you're listening and you're a Doctor Who fan, they need more budget for that show. Those graphics are terrible.
I mean, any of those old shows, like the old Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno.
I'm talking like not even 10 years ago, Doctor Who. Like Doctor Ninth Doctor and on. It's like sci-fi level
even
graphics.
No offense, people. Some of those Star Trek shows, it's like, boy. And I just lost anyone who
and
likes
there goes
Star Trek.
all other sci-fi people.
So one thing that I'm looking at is, okay, we're saying, wow, 10 million an episode, 100 million per the show. Number one, compared to the movies, we've talked about that a little bit. You know, that seems to be cheap for a Star Wars movie. But we're also looking at, let's say, you got to know Disney's trying to compete with or trying to get money like Netflix is getting money. And right now, reportedly, Netflix is making about $950 million a month. So if there's any way, if there's any way that Disney can start to cut into that, like let's say they're making 1/10 of that, that's roughly the budget for this movie in a month, or this TV show. Yeah, TV show in a month. So, and I know they're not going to make that money right off. Netflix is basically the standard, but I think that Disney has a really good shot with this Disney streaming service because in my household, and I don't know about Lacey's, but in my household, it's a no-brainer. When that comes out, we're getting it. Hands down, there's no question.
I'm going to get it. I just don't want to.
And I think that's the
You're
thing.
talking to someone that has Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and cable. Yeah, I have it all.
I think like in one single shot, like the day it launches, there's going to be enough $10 subscriptions to pay for a lot of this, if not the whole thing in one chunk. But
and
all the
be
Disney
less
catalog.
than Netflix.
Yeah, and the Disney catalog will be on there, like all the Disney movies,
except for the Star Wars movies.
Some analysts are guessing that they may launch this thing at like $5 or $6 a month.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, I wasn't joking about that. Is that we're currently in a kind of a tie up with Time Warner and their rights to the Disney movies and stuff. So it is very likely that we will not get the Star Wars movies on the streaming service from the get-go. I think like 2024 or something is what I heard, maybe.
Correct. Yes, and we'll hear more about that in our rundown later.
Yeah. I'm jumping the gun a little. Let's get to the meat and bones of this. I don't even know if that's the correct phrase, but let's get to the main thing here. Is this show about Mandalore? And I'm gonna toss it to Lacey, but I am gonna say I hope so. I'm going to give that tease. I hope so. Ugh. All right. What do you say, Lacey?
I think that, like, I believe the budget part, given that the shareholders meeting was this week or whatever it was. Yeah. I believe that. The Mandalore thing, I think people are grasping. And you know what? If that's what it ends up to be, I'll watch it. Am I excited about it? I don't really care. I don't really care about Mandalore or Mandalorians or anything Mando. Sorry, guys. I just it's not my cup of tea.
All right, John, you go for it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. One, because Mandalore's overrated. I don't think it's a big important piece of the overall story of Star Wars. Yeah, we get it. But I think it had its place and they told it well enough. I don't think it needs another platform, to be honest with you. And also just from, again, a business perspective, like, come get the Disney streaming service. We are launching our first ever live action Star Wars series to all of you people outside of the Star Wars bubble. This series is about Mandalore.
Yeah. What?
Darth Vader? Is Darth Vader in that? No? Luke Skywalker? No. Boba Fett? No, it's not. He looks like it, but it's not him. Oh, well, I still have Netflix, so bye.
Here's the thing is, the Mandalore stories are completely untapped potential. It's another Old Republic for me. It's totally something that people want. Yeah, you're yawning. I know. I hear you. But the Mandalore, the culture behind them is crazy. It's practically another empire. It's this. I know you guys know what it is, but it's this planet and these people that are warriors and they conquer and they take over. And to say that this TV show is going to be happening 2 or 3 years after the fall of the Empire, you think they're sitting back? You think they're sitting watching Netflix waiting for the Disney streaming service? No, they're strategizing. They're trying to figure out how they can expand and they can grow their empire, the empire within the, the Mandalore Empire. And these people are driven, and I don't know. I just think it's such a great time frame, especially if you start to think, okay, well, what could they do? You know what I mean? They could do Old Republic, but we think that's going to happen in movies. They could do, Thrawn or something like that, but I don't know. That seems kind of strange too. That's possible. It's around the right time frame, maybe. Could be this Sabine and going to find Ezra or whatever. That's possible too. But again, I think that standing ground of saying it's a whole new world. Mandalore is, I know the Old Republic is kind of like that too, but like this is kind of a Game of Thronesy thing. These are warrior people and they're fighting over their own land, civil war and stuff. And the fact that it looks like Boba Fett, I know you're joking about it, but that helps. I think that's the way to kind of say, you guys like Boba Fett? You guys like what that whole culture is, that Mandalorian, whatever, bounty hunter, fighters, warriors? Yeah, we're giving you a whole show of it, That being said too, is like, what are they going to do? They're not going to do Luke. They're not going to do Ben. They're not going to do Rey. They're not going to do Leia and Han. Like that stuff's all out the door. I get it. That could be a great moneymaker and a great way to get people sucked in, but it's not the right time frame for Obi-Wan. It's like, what main characters do you want? It's going to be the New Republic, if anything. I don't know. I think it makes sense. If it's not that, I'll watch it. But I think if it is that, I think that actually does make sense. Any comebacks, or do you want to talk about the last rumor?
It's just like Mandalore
is boring.
Good one, John. I've changed my mind.
So that's my Billy Madison defense.
I'd rather
More
watch
like Boraphil.
I'd rather watch a show on pod racing or Gungans over Mandalore.
Ooh.
I get your perspective in terms of the time frame. What else could it be? But man, like, I'm almost kind of bummed they picked that time frame, because like there's a lot of other things I would have loved to have seen them launch this thing with.
Can we get a caretaker sitcom? That's what I want.
We already have it. It's called Dinosaurs, and it was on Fox in the 90s.
No, it was on ABC. TJF.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, TJF.
No, I think. Oh, was it? I thought it was Fox.
Right?
No, it was on TJF.
I thought it was Fox too. All right. TJF. Well, our listeners are gonna roll their eyes at one of us.
Star Wars.
You guys want to talk about
when
this?
was dinosaurs?
yeah. You guys want to talk about this last one? So I'm hearing.
Oh my gosh! I don't want to talk about this.
on the Reddits, that this is fact. People have figured it out. This is how we're going to explain Rey's parentage.
Oh
she
my God, just
is
let
the
it go.
Daughter of Han and Qira. How?
Yep.
John, I'm gonna ask you to do this. Where's the upside of this? Where's the silver lining? Where's the possibility that this could be true? Because I already know that I think all three of us don't believe this. Don't see this as possible.
When did this happen?
Yeah. So the only upside here is if they release 9 and it happens, and then they say like, oh my God, Kira's her mother, and here's Qira, and she shows up like an old woman in 9, and then they re-release Solo to try to make more money on Solo.
That's
the only
most
possibility. Ridiculous thing ever.
That would be just a roll of the dice.
Oh my God, stop. Just stop.
All
the
right.
only more ridiculous thing I heard was someone said that Rey was Qira and Darth Maul's daughter.
Oh.
That was
the time frame doesn't work because Rey's supposed to be 19 at the beginning of The Force Awakens.
She's like legit almost a decade younger than Kylo Ren.
So she would be roughly, let's say 19, 20, somewhere in there. So that's about 10 years after Return of the Jedi. And that would have to mean, number one, Qira's still alive, which is plausible. We know that Han Solo is
20 years
alive.
after the events of Solo. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. But it's possible she could still be around. And then you would have to think that he would have cheated on Leia after their marriage, after Ben was born.
Right.
You know?
And then the stabbing of Han Solo makes so much more relevant.
So maybe it's like the movie Scream, and that's why Kylo Ren wants to kill Rey, because his dad.
He doesn't
want to
kill Rey.
And in this narrative, in this alternate timeline, he does, because in this timeline, Rey is Qira's daughter. You see?
So that makes it his sister. Why won't people just let this go?
It's the same thing when people said she was Jyn Erso's daughter. It's just it's insanity.
Just because it's a British woman with brown hair doesn't make it her mom.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if it was like, imagine like Han Solo and Qira were both black. People would still be like, what if they maybe they're her parents? You know, it's just like people are just so outrageous with these theories. They put no limitations on anything.
I don't understand. No one else ever asked about a character's parentage. Like, no one else, we were like, who's Lando's parents? Who are Finn's parents? Who are, we know who Poe's parents are, but, who's Phasma's parents? Like, no one cares. Why does it matter? The only reason it mattered at first was the question was, is it Luke's daughter? It's not. Move on. Let it go. We know she doesn't have. Oh God, I can't talk about this anymore.
Yeah, the parentage thing and the lineage thing all comes from the original big spoiler of, I am your father. And ever since then, it's been they led us to believe that he was a nobody, but it turns out he has family lineage that is important, and maybe that's why he's so powerful, and all that thing just it cycles our thought process into the same things over and over and over again. Well, who is this girl? And then I think JJ fed into that a little bit. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know, but I think that's where a lot of this stuff all stems from.
Spray bottle that I could spray people like stop
like
it.
a Twitter spray.
Yeah,
like a Facebook poke, but that actually works.
No, down. Yeah, no. So annoying.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching that video, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and head over to the full episode by clicking this box here. If you want, you could subscribe, and that way you get all the weekly news, you get our discussions, you get information on our giveaways whenever we do them. It's a good time, we promise. Thanks for watching the Resistance broadcast.